Welcome into another episode of Always Talkin Ball. Here's the problem with preseason rankings. Everybody acts like there are 10 to 15 teams that we all agree on, and there aren't. Somebody ranked in the top 10 right now is going to be an absolute disaster, and somebody nobody is taking seriously is going to be playing meaningful games in December. And I can already tell you, Lance and I do not see some of these teams the same way. So today, we're putting the 2026 ATB preseason top 16 rankings on the table. Who's actually elite? Who's actually too high? Who's too low? Which preseason darling are we going to look back on in December and wonder what the hell we're thinking? Oregon, Notre Dame, Indiana, Georgia, Texas Tech, BYU, Miami, Oklahoma. We've got some disagreements here. With that, let me welcome in my co-host, Lance Barton.
Dude, I'm so happy that we are finally done with this absolute shit show of an offseason that we've had, man. I'm so tired of talking about the court systems. I'm tired of talking about the transfer portal. I'm tired of talking about who's betting on games and who's not betting on games and which judges are going to be out here granting TROs and how much money is this player making and that player making. All of that's about to officially be over with, and ball is about to be kicked off, and I can't wait. This show is called Always Talkin Ball for a reason. We love this freaking sport and can't wait for the season to kick off. So, man, I'm pumped that we're sitting there giving our rankings and about to talk about ball that's going to be played on the field. Let's ride, baby.
All right, let's get to it. Let's get to our preseason top 16 rankings. We are just going to, if you're watching on YouTube, we're going to put the whole rankings up here in just a second. We're not going to go team by team until we get to, our week by week rankings. So let's just flash up preseason top 16 here. And if you're listening on audio, we'll just go through it team by team. And as you can see, the consensus number one team in the country on ATB, it scares me to death, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
I mean, man, I know that I think I'm higher on them than you are. Obviously this year, I'm not like so much higher. If I'm not mistaken, didn't you have Oregon as your number one team?
Yes, I had Oregon as my number one team. I had Notre Dame as number two. And I think that's probably just the fan in me. I mean, being a fan, since I was a little kid of Notre Dame, watching them on NBC, in the falls and everything. And really, I was 1 year old the last time they won a championship. So I haven't seen much in my day. I've seen a couple CFPs and whatnot. But it scares me. It scares me, no matter what.
Well, let me just go off here for you, my man, because there's going to be a lot of people. Like, first off, Notre Dame is the most polarizing team in college football. Fans around the country love to hate Notre Dame. If you have Notre Dame ranked this high, the casuals around the country are going to be like, oh, they're so overrated. They're always so overrated. But when you actually look at the numbers of what Notre Dame has done over the last several years, they're one of the most 5 winningest teams in all of college football over the last 5 years. Even back when Brian Kelly was there, he was taking them to playoffs, taking them to national championship games, just weren't winning it. Marcus Freeman had Notre Dame in the freaking national championship 2 years ago. They're recruiting at the highest level in all of college football. Like, they're right there amongst the elite teams in all of college football and recruiting right now. Used to be Notre Dame's problem was they didn't have just the speed and the athletes on the perimeter. They got that and more now. They've still got absolute dudes along the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Championships in this sport are won at the line of scrimmage. And Notre Dame is one of the few teams that if you look at every single preseason magazine, if you look in deep dives into these rosters and what it projections, that's all we're doing right now. It's preseason. We're projecting what teams are going to be. Notre Dame is as good as any team in the country along the offensive line and defensive line, like the combo of those two units. And I got a little nugget here for you. Of all the teams that just about everybody out there is going to be ranking in their top 15 or 16, definitely in their top 10, there's only 2 teams that have the combination of head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and starting quarterback coming back this year, and that is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish and the Georgia Bulldogs.
Okay, that's a really good nugget. I mean, I think, people look at Notre Dame and obviously they don't think they have the talent like you were talking about. And I was listening to a show recently, I can't remember what it was, but they were talking about, Notre Dame, it wasn't their fault, about the I think it was Driscoll. He was talking about, their guys, not going to Notre Dame back in the day. It's because they really weren't given a reason to. And now you got Marcus Freeman there, and he is absolutely giving all these players a good reason to go to Notre Dame. So excited for the season. Obviously, they got a schedule. We'll talk about that at some point too.
Yeah, I mean, and two, man, look, like the quarterback position, CJ Carr is the preseason Heisman favorite right now. He is projected. He's among the top, I think, 3 or 4 guys right now projected to be the number 1 overall pick, or the first quarterback taken in this next year's NFL draft. And I mean, I know that they lost Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. That is definitely the biggest question mark for this team going into this year because of how much they leaned on those 2 horses last year. When we had our boy Driscoll on the other day, he talked about this. We talked about this. Like, one of the reasons why I love Mike Denbrock as an offensive coordinator is because he's done such a good job, man, over the years of adapting to his talent. He doesn't have like, this is my system, and I'm going to take guys and fit them into my system. He is going to take his players and then build off those strengths. Riley Leonard a couple of years ago running the football. He had the QB power run game with Riley Leonard. If you go back to his days as the LSU offensive coordinator with Jaden Daniels and those freak receivers with Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors and that crew, they were slinging the ball all over the yard and averaging over 500 yards per game of offense and were the number 1 offense in the country. Last year, he took 2 stud tailbacks and just ran over everybody with an offensive line and 2 good tailbacks. So he's going to adjust, man, to what his offense is. And this year, it looks like that this offense is going to be built around, the offensive line and the quarterback. It's going to be quarterback-centric with the weapons they're going to have on the perimeter. And I know that sometimes people think that offenses may take less chances when you have such a great defense. See, I may be of a different opinion on that. I think that they may go out and go full send with CJ Carr and some of those wide receivers and put games in his hands because they do trust that the defense says, you know what? If we happen to turn the rock over here or something, our defense is going to stop them by how much they love this defense. They've got one of the best linebacker tandems in the country. In my opinion, the best secondary in the country and one of the best D-lines. So, yeah, I mean, if you've got Notre Dame really ranked out of your top 5 preseason, there's a lot of these teams we're about to talk about that are pretty close to each other. But if you've got the Irish ranked out of your top 5 going into this year, I just highly disagree with that.
Yeah. We had the top 7, pretty much the same as everybody else has the top 7, kind of like that clear cut, 7 teams in the country. And we had Oregon number 2, Indiana 3, Georgia 4. We were both in lockstep on 5 through 7. We had Ohio State 5, Texas 6, Miami 7. I think Miami being at 7, given just their schedule, and obviously they've got immense talent. They're playing in the ACC there. I think that's a solid place for them because I think as they keep winning, which I think they'll do against that schedule, all the way until November 7th, they're going to steadily rise because all these, Ohio State, Texas, one of those teams is going to fall week 2. So that's how the polls work. They kind of just go hop in front of them. That's how the AP poll works. It's not how the ATB poll works. So we'll get to that, later in the season. But Ohio State at 5 is something that we're going to get hate on for sure because the AP has them at 1.
Yep.
The coaches poll has them at 1. Everybody, I mean, all these people have them at 1. And I know maybe we're not talking about Julian saying enough. Obviously, we talk about Jeremiah Smith so much. We talk about Ryan Day. Again, they're replacing the same thing they did last year. They're doing the eight players on defense they got to replace. Same thing. They had no issue with it last year. Arthur Smith coming in. So I guess as I'm talking here, why do we have Ohio State number 5?
Honestly, man, I just think eventually, and this is Ohio State. I realize that they just reload year in and year out. But again, I think that the teams 1 through 7 are so close to each other that, again, it's not egregious if you have someone ranked ahead of someone. Like, you know how this works, bro. They're going to
honestly, I could make a case for every single one of these 7 teams to be ranked number 1.
Agreed 1,000%. We've heard other people. We've heard other people say that.
That's crazy too, because I don't think that's happened quite that often in the past. At least since we've been doing the show for 4 seasons.
Never remember it happening, bro. Never remember it happening because the pre NIL transfer portal, you had 2 or 3 teams every year that you could hitch your wagon to, and now I just don't think that's the case. But with the Buckeyes, I mean, I was going to be honest, man. I think the defense is going to be really good. Mm-hmm. But all these first rounders that they've sent to the NFL in the last 2 years, do I think that James Smith and Quay Russaw from Alabama are those guys? I don't. Like, they may come out and surprise you with that. But I know there's going to be some Buckeye fans listening. Have you seen James Smith? He's so big and jacked up. Dude, I watched him play every snap for the last few years at Alabama. And he was a 5-star talent coming out of Carver Montgomery and just disappeared in games. You never saw him playing it like out there on the field, hardly in games. And then out of nowhere, you'd see him jump off the page. Maybe Larry Johnson can bring that out of him. If anybody can, he can. But like, it's not that I'm saying that these are weaknesses for Ohio State. They're just questions. And this is the first time, man, like Ryan Day has gone to the transfer portal multiple times for the Buckeyes to like not build his team through the transfer portal, but fill in needs around players they've already got through the transfer portal. Dude, you and I talked about this the other day here on one of our previous episodes. I think our Big Ten preview. They've got like 6 or 7 guys, man, that's projected to be starters on their defense, and they're too deep that are transfers. And they may all hit, man. They may all hit. But we've seen a lot of times where that's not the case. So I just think for me that it was, I like, would you ever think you'd say this? I like this Indiana team more than Ohio State going into the year. I like what Indiana backfilled the people that they lost with. Yeah. Like losing Elijah Surratt and replacing him with Nick Marsh. That's just an example that I'm giving there. Losing their running back and replacing him with Turbo Richard. I mean, that's solid, bro, with all that they're bringing back. But would it shock me if Ohio State just went on a run and won the national title this year? Hell no. Would it shock you?
No, not at all.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think the Buckeyes, I just got a few more questions, not weaknesses, questions about them than I do Oregon or Georgia or Indiana or Notre Dame.
Yeah. Rounding out our top 16, we got Oklahoma at 8, Texas A&M at 9, Ole Miss at 10, Alabama 11, Texas Tech 12, LSU 13, BYU 14, USC 15, and Michigan 16. Let's flip to my rankings so you can see that I'm not a homer. I didn't put Notre Dame at 1. I put them at 2, so no big deal. Oregon at 1, though. I just, most talented roster in the country. I think that's been talked about all off season, and it's kind of just like a if not, now win for Dan Lanning. I'm really high on Georgia this year too. I like them at number 3. I had A&M at number 8, and the shows I've been listening to, A&M has been getting talked about as like that team in the top 10 that could fall out of the top 25 by the end of the season. I'm high on them. Basically, Marcel Reed is Marcel Reed. He's going to do what Marcel Reed does. I'm high on Mike Elko. I love Mike Elko, one of my favorite coaches out there. I don't think he's going to let his team backslide that much into the season, so I'm high on them. I've actually got go ahead.
I was going to say, let's touch on them really quick. I want to go ahead and talk about them a ton yet so far this in our previous episodes.
Yeah.
Because
you had them 11.
Yeah, I did. I had them at 11. And again, I think you can take these teams and pot them out. I think the SEC teams of Alabama, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, and LSU, however you preseason rank those teams, whatever order you want to rank them this offseason, again, do I think you're crazy if you have one ahead of the other? No, I don't. I realize if you're probably a fan of one of those teams, you disagree with that. But if you're really looking at this like objectively, like I just think that those teams are all really potted together and are really good football teams. That any given one of them could go on a run. Like if Marcel Reed does take that next step, bro, and starts throwing the football better and starts being more consistent throwing the football, A&M has weapons everywhere on offense. From a skill position perspective, dude, like, do you agree with me that from a skill position perspective, A&M the last 2 years, that's something that Mike Elko has done really well so far in College Station, is how he's built that wide receiver group and that tailback group. And then you've got a dual threat quarterback like Marcel Reed. I mean, Mario
they really need Ruben Owens to really step up this year.
Yes, they do. They need Ruben Owens to step up. They need their starting tailbacks to stay healthy like that. But having a Mario Craver, bringing in Isaiah Horton through the transfer portal from Alabama, Bethel Roman, the other wide receiver, and Terry Bussey. That's 4 really good athletes, man, on the perimeter.
Yeah.
So it really just comes down to, like, you're replacing the Maroon Goons on the offensive line from everything we hear out of they went heavy through the transfer portal. Who knows? Maybe they hit, maybe they don't. But I think Mike Elko is going to have that defense doing totally fine. Does Marcel Reed take that next step? the new offensive coordinator. Yeah, that's really my only question with them going into the year. I could see them 10-2. I could see them 8-4 when you look at their schedule.
Yeah, he started 20-something games already. He's one of the more senior, tenured quarterbacks in the country.
Yeah.
Obviously, we got a ton of quarterbacks coming back this year for college football. It's going to be one of the best years, hopefully, of quarterback play in college football that we've seen in a long time. So I had Texas Tech at number 9. I pretty much trust every position and every player on that team except for their quarterback position. I just have no idea. We saw Will Hammond come in at Utah last year and really play really well. Obviously, the whole Sorsby situation. I'm not even sure if Hammond's going to play to start off the season just because he's recovering from that injury. There's talks of them getting Tommy Castellanos. Who knows? But I think Texas Tech's built a well-oiled machine to really thrive in the Big 12 because it's not that best, not the best of the conferences. And their schedule this year, obviously, is one of the most cake in college football in Power 4. So, I think they're a legitimate college football playoff team. Whether or not they do anything once they get in there like they did last year, that remains to be seen.
Yeah, dude, Texas Tech, again, is just so much better than the rest of the Big 12 along the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Like BYU and Utah are physical along the line of scrimmage, but we saw that last year, man, the difference. Texas Tech went up to freaking Rice-Eccles and pantsed them, and they embarrassed BYU twice.
Mm-hmm.
BYU didn't stand a chance, man, along the line of scrimmage against Texas Tech. And they just reloaded. I don't know if the defense is going to be as nasty as it was last year, but if it is, dude, it won't shock me. They've got the exciting white combo trio at linebacker with Austin Romaine coming over from Kansas State, a tackling machine. He's been at the tops of the Big 12 the last 2 years. Ben Roberts has been starting at Texas Tech for the last 2 or 3 years. And then John Curry. That's 3 really good linebackers. But, dude, in our prep for this, I knew that these guys obviously were really good coming in. Trey White, edge rusher from San Diego State. Dude had 19.5 sacks, 28 tackles for a loss, and 27 QB hurries the last 2 years for the Aztecs at San Diego State. Everybody was after him. And, of course, Cody Campbell and that bunch at Texas Tech reeled him in. Bryce Butler, big defensive tackle out of Washington. He's there now. Mateen Igbaragba from Wake was another one that Texas and others were coming after him, and Texas Tech won the sweepstakes there. And then probably going to end up being one of my favorite players, another exciting white, Adam Trick, Miami, Ohio, had 18 sacks the last 2 years for Miami O. Dude is a freak. When you see any film on this guy, he's an animal. He's the motor that is like a Reuben Bain type, just mean, has a complete motor every play, going to try to outwork you every play. So, dude, that defensive line with what they bring back along the offensive line, bringing back both of their tailbacks from last year that ran wild for Texas Tech. Hammond's a dual threat type guy. If Castellanos ends up playing some, he's a dual threat type guy. They're going to be able to run the football on whoever they play in the Big 12, and they're going to be able to stop the run against anybody they play in the Big 12. So at this point, man, I think it's going to take some catastrophic injuries for Texas Tech to not be standing there in the Big 12 championship game, and somebody some Herculean type performance from a quarterback somewhere that can just light it up offensively to beat them.
Yeah. Rounding out my top 16, I got Ole Miss at 10, Oklahoma 11, Alabama 12, LSU 13, BYU 14, Utah 15, and USC 16. Lance, let's get to your top 16.
All right, so in my top 16, I've texted. I got Notre Dame at 1. It was tough between the two schools from the football state, the Hoosier State, there in Indiana. Dude, I don't know what it's going to take. Maybe just another year of Indiana just beating the freaking shit out of people in the Big Ten again. But the amount of people, man, that are just doubting this Indiana team, it's just obvious that we've seen this after doing this now for 4 years. People can't take their fandom blinders off of whoever the team that they're a fan of and just see a team for what they freaking are.
Yeah.
I mean, Siggs and Shanahan and Bryant Haynes, that group, that 3 right there have been together for almost a decade. I can't believe that both those coordinators and Siggs are back. and just what they're bringing back on. When you take a look and see, okay, from that 16-0 national championship team, what are they bringing back? What did they lose off that team? And then what did they replace those guys with? Just look at that alone and tell me that this is not a top 5 freaking team in the country.
Yeah, I mean, we're both high on them. I mean, obviously, AP has them 6. I think they're clearly being treated differently because of their program's history.
Like, if they had Longhorns on their freaking helmet, burnt orange and white, they would try to find a way to make them what's something bigger than number 1 in the country.
And they've won the same amount of titles as the Longhorns in the past, 50 years, right? So, I mean, it's
crazy. It's crazy, man. That's how these people see this.
I feel like we have them rated properly. I have them 4, you have them number 2.
Mm-hmm.
So consensus 3. I feel like that's where they belong. One guy even brought it up too. Get the same same head coach, same offense coordinator, same defense coordinator. Many guys coming back from last year's team. A quarterback coming in that people think is actually more talented than Fernando Mendoza. And the last 2 times they played Oregon, they beat them 30-20 and 56-22. So tell me why Indiana will be ranked behind Oregon. It's because that IU on their helmet. That's got to be the only reason.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I had Indiana 2 and Oregon 3. Like I told you, I said, dude, I'm not going to make this more complicated than it is. I watched those again. We don't take a look at too much from last year to this year because of the transfer portal, because of coaches moving. What happens last year, it is not necessarily indicative of what's going to happen this year, especially in today's college football. But Oregon's bringing back virtually their entire roster from that team that went to the semis last year. And they lost both coordinators. And then Indiana's bringing back a lot of that same roster that won the national title. I understand that Fernando Mendoza, the dude that won the Heisman, is not there. But if you look at Siggs and Shanahan's track record, man, with quarterbacks, think back to last year.
Look what they did from Curtis Rourke from Ohio.
Yes. He took Curtis Rourke from Ohio U with one leg. Dude was playing with a torn ACL all year and it threw for 1 billion yards. The Maple Missile. Love that nickname. And people thought we were crazy last offseason when we said that Fernando Mendoza is an upgrade from Curtis Rourke. They took that as a shot at Curtis Rourke. It wasn't. It was more of a how much confidence we had in Mendoza. Did we think he was going to win the Heisman and turn into the number 1 pick? No, we didn't do that. If we would have, we would have been placing bets places and making a lot of money. Yeah. But we didn't. We just thought he was going to be an upgrade from Rourke. He was a huge upgrade because of his overall talent mixed with Siggs and Shanahan being able to get it out of it. Now you've got Josh Hoover, who, if I'm not mistaken, is the nation's leading active passer in all of college football coming back this year. If you take all of his passing yards from previous seasons at TCU and you put him with Siggs and Shanahan, but hey, what about the interceptions that he's had? You think Siggs and Shanahan and that crew is going to allow him just to run around and throw the ball to the other team? Hell no.
Yeah.
Not going to happen. Not going to need to try to win games with this team. But anyway, enough on the Hoosiers. But it's crazy to me, man, that people are just still doubting them. I've got Oregon at 3. I agree with you. On paper, most talented roster in college football coming back. Can Dan Lanning do it? Can this team do it? I told you I found this nugget the other day. A lot of people out there are favoriting this Oregon team to win the national championship. A lot of people are picking Oregon preseason to win the national championship. They're no doubt the most talented roster on paper going into this season. But if Oregon were to win the national championship this year, they would be the first team since the 2001 Miami Hurricanes that replaced both coordinators and won the national championship that year. That's how hard
I don't think they're as talented as the 2001 Miami Hurricanes.
I don't either. Yeah. So, again, they may win it all. They absolutely can. Again, these 7 teams that we're talking about in these top 7 wouldn't shock me if any of them win it. But Oregon's bringing back their entire – dude, I'm not going to sit here and go through – they're bringing back pretty much their entire freaking football team.
Yeah.
Plus, they're getting Evan Stewart back from injury at wide receiver. So, we got Georgia. I've got Georgia at 4. And you said it in one of our clips. You think Georgia's got the best defense in the country this year. I think when you take this team, in my opinion, this Georgia team has the ingredients to be a national championship type team. This
Yep.
team has the ingredients to be the best team Georgia's had since that back-to-back national championship run. No teams are going to be stacked with talent like that, like those teams were. We won't see that anymore. Dude, this Georgia team defensively is going to be nasty, and then I love the fact they got a dog, pun intended, like Gunnar Stockton at quarterback. It's just going to come down to what are the wide receivers? I know that's the question mark. Not a weakness, but it's a question mark. How does that group look? But I think they're going to run the football behind that veteran offensive line that they've got, and they're going to stifle people defensively this year. So they can stay healthy. They've been bitten by the injury bug going into the playoffs these last few years.
Yep.
If they can stay healthy, they're going to be a problem. We already talked about Ohio State. I got Ohio State at 5, Texas at 6. Man, I'm hearing some rumblings coming out of Austin, man, that just the vibes don't seem to be immaculate right now in all Austin. They're kicking starters off the team that had 1 billion tackles last year, the linebacker that they kicked off the team. People are talking about that the offense looks like they can barely even get first downs. Now, just like scrimmages, man, within your own teams like that, does that mean that Will Muschamp's got that Texas defense just flying around and ready just to bust heads this year? Or does it mean that Arch Manning and this offense is still behind what anybody thinks they should be? I probably think it's more so the defense, man. Do you agree with me, dude? Surely, man, that the way Arch looked at the end of last year, that this offense with the weapons that they've added, both tailbacks that they brought in, and with the receivers that they've added with Cam Coleman and that group, surely, man, with this offensive line too, that this Texas team is going to be better offensively than what they were.
I don't trust anything that comes out of these fall camps.
I'm with you, man.
Bottom line, I just don't trust anything.
I fell for it the last couple of years,
Yeah,
for sure, with some of these teams, and you
can't trust it.
Yeah, you've tried to talk me in. You've tried to talk me like through that. I get too hyped up with my own team.
Don't believe it.
Yep. Okay. Miami at 7. Again, Miami is probably a better team on paper. Not probably. I think Miami's a better team on paper than they were last year, and they played for the national championship last year. Obviously, Ruben Bain and Messidor. Last year's team, what separated them were those two edge rushers, the physical play at the line of scrimmage, and just the offensive line, defensive line just combined. Now their offense is going to definitely look more like that 2024 Cam Ward offense with Darian Mensah coming in. I mean, Mensah literally was second in the country last year in passing at Duke. Darian Mensah took Duke to an ACC championship last year.
Yeah.
So now with the weapons he's going to have around him, this really comes down to what's Miami going to do against Notre Dame, and can they finally, for the first time since joining the ACC, can Miami finally win an ACC championship?
Do you think there's a bigger separation between Miami and the rest of the ACC, or Texas Tech and the rest of the Big 12?
Texas Tech and the rest of the Big 12.
Okay.
And that's because I think Louisville and SMU are a little closer.
Two teams that Miami lost to last year.
Yeah. I think Louisville and SMU are probably, with the dynamic play at the quarterback position with Kevin Jennings at SMU. And, man, I think Jeff Brom with the most talented quarterback that he's ever had.
Yeah.
Bringing back some dudes, Clef Rubin around the defensive end for Louisville. Yeah, I would say it's Texas Tech. I just think the rest of the Big 12 is that far behind Texas Tech. I got Oklahoma at 8. They're going to have one of the best defenses in the country again. And John Mateer is going to have 5 fingers that he can use to throw the football this year. That'll help. That'll help. That'll help. And he's going to have a good wide receiver crew, unlike last year, to actually throw the ball to. Question with them, can the young offensive line from last year step up? Ole Miss at 9. And I think a lot of people are kind of sleeping on Ole Miss a little bit this offseason. I think they might be a little bit.
We've heard from our sources that the way Golding runs the program and runs practices is a little questionable. People have said that to us. And I just don't know whether or not to believe it or not. I don't know.
I'm going to choose to be like you, what you said a second ago, Tyler. I'm going to choose to just not believe stuff that comes out of camp.
And I think that source knows who he is, who told us that. So
yeah, he's probably going to listen to this.
Yeah. So
it's just hard, man. It's just hard after all these since doing this for the last 3 or 4 years. The stuff that you hear coming out of camp, and then you get to the season, you're like, what? Where's that at? Where's this been?
Yeah.
But Ole Miss has firepower all over the offense.
Yeah.
They, from a mouthful, from a pure talent perspective, I think they're more talented than the team they put on the field last year that went to the CFP semis. Does that mean that they'll be better? No. but they are more talented. Their schedule's tougher, for sure. Way tougher than what it was last year. I mean, right out of the gate, bro, Jeff Brom in Louisville, Jeff Brom is an underdog. Good luck. Like that.
Ole Miss is one of the 4 teams who plays 6 preseason AP top 25 teams.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much harder than it was last year.
Yeah.
So, what's that offensive coordinator's name? John David Baker. He used to coach. Yeah, he coached at Ole Miss with Charlie Weiss Jr. and with Kiffin. So they're going to run pretty much the same system. I feel like
keep it the same.
Yeah, it's just going to be a different dude calling the plays. The good news for them is they still got Winnedad that's going to be slinging it for them.
Yep.
I've got Alabama at 10. Keelan Russell named the starting quarterback yesterday by Kalen DeBoer, and that was huge news coming out of Tuscaloosa. I just think he adds a dynamic, man, that this team really needs. Again, this is going to sound like a mouthful, but it actually, when you really look at it, it is true. Keelan Russell is the most talented quarterback that Alabama has ever had on their roster. Now, I'm not saying that means he's going to be the best, but from a pure, raw talent perspective, he's the highest rated recruit to ever come to Alabama. The dude threw for over 7,000 yards and like 90-something touchdowns and only 7 interceptions and was a track star at Duncanville High School in Texas. I think that this was huge for Alabama to name him the starter. And I think a lot of people thought it was going to be him, but you started hearing stuff out of fall camp that Austin Mack was really pushing him. But like you said, was that really happening?
Yeah.
We don't know. But
I have no doubt that he is going to be an absolute stud.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's taken 37 career snaps, right? So obviously he's very, very limited. But I think he's obviously better than Austin Mack. I was wanting to see a little bit more of him last year during the season. I was calling for him even at the beginning of the year too. I think what this tells me is, and it's kind of been my fear about Alabama, is that the coaching staff, obviously they think he's better, but I think they want a higher ceiling guy. And because I don't think, not that they don't have faith in their skill players and offense, whatever the rest of the offense, but that's kind of been like the weak link of Alabama going into this year. The defense is loaded with studs, right? They're elite. Offense is kind of like, can they run the ball? Can they do this? Can they do that? I think they want the higher ceiling guy, the guy who can make those dynamic plays. If they had faith in like the offense and the running game and all that, I think they would maybe go with Austin Mack for the first game. He's more of like a game manager who's been there for 3 or 4 years, right?
Maybe. I just don't know, man. I think that I think that for this offense, for Kalen, we saw what the Kalen DeBoer and the Ryan Grubb experience when it can hum at the highest level was with Michael Penix. They can make every single throw on the field, that can absolutely challenge you vertically down the field over and over and over again, and that has a freaking howitzer for an arm. And that's what Keelan Russell is. I mean, that's exactly what he is. We just don't know that he can be, obviously, we haven't seen him in games yet. Like, we don't know that he can make those great decisions and make the right decisions and get you out of bad plays into good plays that can lead you on the road when you're in tough road environments, and can take a team and put them on your back and not go make mistakes. That can, when he makes mistakes, can he overcome those things? Like, those are all things, man, that we don't have a clue that this guy's going to be able to do. But I think, man, I think more so, Tyler, what it tells me, I do think that this staff probably realizes again that the running game's not going to be great.
Yeah.
It's not. And having a guy that is more dynamic, that can move around more, that can, if an offensive lineman does miss his assignment, that can get out of trouble and still make plays with his feet or his arm, I think that that's what he can do.
This may sound crazy, and it sounded crazy a year ago too, but we're going to find out a lot about Keelan Russell week 2 at Kentucky.
I agree.
It sounded crazy when we said we're going to find out a lot about Ty Simpson in Alabama week 1 at Florida State, but I think it's kind of the same thing. I mean, that's going to be first, a second, or big time home game, first big home game for Kentucky. So we'll find out a lot about them. Who you got in the rest of your top 16?
All right, let's see here. Number 11, I got A&M. We talked about them a minute ago. Number 12, I've got LSU, and I think this is the number 1 team that's going to make people either look really good or really stupid. this year because of I think that they've got a super high ceiling, but just because of just the complete flip of a roster and a coaching staff, a lot of newness down there in Baton Rouge with the high expectations that you have. We've seen Lane Kiffin in the past, man, not be great at managing to super high expectations and pressure. Like when he was at Ole Miss, like each year, man, the expectations weren't through the roof, like nationally, like they are now. And I know that people are gonna like I can't remember what they were ranked in the AP poll, but uh, dude, this when you really look again, when you just take off the blinders and look at this roster for what it is. Think of the coaching staff for what it is, with Charlie Weiss Jr. as offensive coordinator, one of the two best in all of college football, with Blake Baker, one of the 10 to 12 best defensive coordinators in all of college football, Lane Kiffin with the success that he's had the last 4 to 5 years and coaching at Ole Miss. And then when you look at the roster, the talent that they've got, man, on both sides of the ball, top to bottom, it's deep, man. Yeah. They've got dudes all over the place. So, I mean, I saw the other day they've got 3 like former top 10 like freshman defensive linemen that are going to be in the rotation like early. And I looked at them and I said, man, they've got other guys that's been there for a couple of years who's really good. And these guys are going to break into and play. That's some good depth they're going to have along the D line. So I think they're going to be fine offensively, just like any Lane Kiffin offense is. I've seen a lot of people questioning Levitt a little bit. So I'm going to ask you, are you worried about Sam Levitt at all in Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss's offense?
No, he's got enough talent that I think they've succeeded with worse. And I think if he returns to his 2024 playing time, I think he's got the running game to do it. He's got the wide receivers. I think they can lean on their defense more than people think. I think they got a top 10 defense in the country.
I don't disagree, man. I think the defense is. I mean, Principal Umam and Yellen, they brought in from Ole Miss. TJ Daugherty, they brought him in from Ole Miss. I think he was like their green dot linebacker last year. We're going to pair him with Whit Weeks. That's a really good linebacker duo. So, yeah, I'm with you, man. I think that this LSU team can absolutely live up to the hype because of the roster that they got and this staff. And I actually do like their schedule this year, too. At number 13, I've got Texas Tech. We talked about them a minute ago. They're just head and shoulders above everybody else in the Big 12 right now. It's going to take some serious injuries, in my opinion, for them not to win the Big 12. 14, I got USC. If USC had some other teams' schedule in the Big 10, I'd be so much higher on them this year. Again, the team is not the schedule, especially going into the preseason. Like, we look at the teams. We don't look at the schedules because they haven't played these schedules yet. We're just basing these off these teams. This is the best USC team that Lincoln Riley has put on the field on paper by far. When you look at the roster defensively is better. They've got dudes along the defensive front that can play, that can hold up against a Big Ten schedule now. They brought in DBs through the transfer portal that are really good, that everybody wanted. And having pretty much your quarterback back for a third year, almost the entire offensive line back, both of your tailbacks back, and we know that they're going to put really good wide receivers on the field like they always do. Terrell Anderson from NC State's Tanuke Hines is one that everybody's talking about being one of the best wide receivers in the country. That's a really good duo they're going to have there. And then they signed the number 1 recruiting class in the country. Uh-huh. 2 of those freshmen look like they're going to be playing right out of the gate. One on offense, one on defense. Mark Bowman is the tight end, 5-star tight end, was the top tight end in the country coming out of high school. He's a freak. Looks like he's going to start at tight end right away. And then Luke Waffle along the defensive front was the number 1 defensive end in the country coming out of high school, number 1 player in the state of California, and like top 5 player overall. Just right now, Google Luke Waffle and just look at what that dude looks like. He looks like he's about 24 years old, and he's a true freshman. Yeah, he's definitely ready for the college game. 15, I had Michigan. I know I'm higher on Michigan than you are. Well, maybe we can touch on them more here in a minute. Or we can do it right now. Whatever you think.
Yeah, I mean, I had Utah 15 and Michigan out. I mean, Michigan was my, I think, number 17 team. So I just, like I've said, I think that they have the potential. They have a ceiling of 9 wins this year. Again, it's a vibe thing for me. I don't like the fact that they're saying some of the stuff in fall camp that they're saying. They're talking down, playing down the rivalry with Ohio State. I really think they lucked into Kyle Whittingham being their head coach. after the whole Sharon Moore situation. I just don't know if it's a great fit. I think he's a great coach. I don't know if I see it fitting. And again, I've still got my questions and doubts about Bryce Underwood. Freak of a talent, obviously 5-star coming out of high school. But again, just because you're a 5-star doesn't automatically make you great. And you threw 11 touchdowns and 9 interceptions last year. I know you're a true freshman playing in the Big Ten and SEC as a true freshman. It's tough. So I expect a jump from him this year. And if we don't get it, then, we'll see, just because you pay a guy, just because Barstool guys and all these tech guys pay a guy $10 million to come to their school doesn't make him any good.
I don't disagree, man. And I'm just looking at it from the perspective of just we've talked about it a little bit in previous episodes, but Jason Beck, what he's done with dual threat quarterbacks at his previous stops, the two-headed monster they're going to have at tailback. The offensive line in Michigan's always good. Whittingham brought his stud offensive line coach with him from Utah, who's been so good, one of the best O-line coaches in the sport. They brought with him some upgraded guys at wide receiver. It's just hard for me to imagine, man, an Underwood's talent being booty in Jason Beck's offense. And then at 16, I've got BYU. Bear Bachmeier back, what he did last year, speaking of true freshmen, what he did last year as a true freshman, he didn't even go through spring ball, was just incredible. LJ Martin back at tailback. He was one of the best players on the offensive side of the ball in the Big 12 last year. And I like what they brought in, man, for as far as athlete-wise for pass catchers with Kyler Casper from Oregon and Walker Lyons from USC. Both those guys are former really high recruits coming out of high school. And so adding those guys and JoJo Phillips, and they've got another wide receiver they brought into the transfer portal. Tiger Bachmeier is going to be running wide receiver for BYU. So
they're just another one of those teams that's just constantly nationally overlooked.
100%. Well, we've got them, like I said, you got them at 14. I've got them at 16. They'll probably be sitting here at the end of the year again, about 10-1, and they'll be the
11th, 12th ranked team. Yeah.
They'll be the lowest ranked 10-1 team by far in the country. There'll be teams with 2 losses ranked ahead of them, and they'll be screaming from the rooftops out there in Provo, like, why aren't we ranked higher? And then they'll get beat in the Big 12 championship game, and they'll have 2 losses, and there'll be a bunch of other teams with 2 losses and a couple of teams with 3 losses. And on Selection Sunday, BYU's name won't even be mentioned for some reason.
It'll be like ranked 20th or something like that.
Yeah, they won't even be mentioned for some reason, which is just crazy, man. Kalani Sitake in that group to do it year after year.
Yep. All right. So that's our top 16. We love doing the rankings. Preseason rankings are fun. But, we don't get too attached to them. They fluctuate pretty rapidly after, week by week for us. So we'll give you our weekly top 16 rankings as the season goes on. But that's it for this episode. We'll be back next time giving you our college football playoff predictions. So for Lance Parton, I'm Tyler Noe. Take care. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you next time.